So I like to joke. I like to lighten the moods. But I need to share something really personal. And I'm terrified to do it. But God's really been dealing with me to share this part of my story. A little bit of the softer, not so hard shell Valerie that I kind of put out for everyone. So I'm gonna obey. I was raised by my grandparents. They were God-fearing people, loved me. They took me to church, taught me right from wrong. We read the Bible, grew up, got married, had children, went to church even then. My husband and I took our children to church. Maybe like 4 years after we got married, he became a pastor. I went to church, did everything that I thought I should, went through the motions, tried to live a morally right lifestyle. And I just continued in that kind of mundane routine all the time. Then in 2011, my father committed suicide. And my father had been in my life my entire childhood and all of that, but he had always struggled with addiction. He self-medicated with alcohol, drugs. He'd get sober and then he'd relapse again. So as an adult, we had kind of grown our relationship more than I had as a child. So I had that relationship and I talked to him probably every few days. And I had talked to him that day in July. He had asked me to come to his house and pick up a big thing of green beans that he had picked out of his garden, because he would pick them, grow them and pick them. And then I would can them and we'd just share them. And I was like, I'll just have my husband. So my husband stopped by to pick them up and he had shot himself. So my husband found him shot in the living room. And I struggled. I struggled a lot with that, and I still do some days. How didn't I know? How didn't I see it coming? I had just talked to him. Should I have done more to help him? Should I have seen more signs? Why didn't I do more? Like, what if I could have saved him? Why didn't I? And with that, I went through therapy and tried a few different therapy and counseling and antidepressants and that kind of thing. Nothing really worked. I hid it. I became resentful toward my husband, toward pretty much anyone. And I kind of hardened my heart to everyone. And I decided that I didn't want to be in a marriage anymore. I didn't want to be with him, so I was going to move out. So I did. Broke all the marriage vows. Started drinking. I always said, if you don't start drinking, you don't have to stop, because of my dad's history. So I never started drinking until then. It's 2015 I started drinking, and I did not stop. I went from a shot here or there to full fists of vodka in one day. I went to work and could not wait till I got home to drink again. It was an ongoing process, and for two and a half years to between 3 years, somewhere in between that time frame, I don't know exactly, but I drank so often that when I would brush my teeth in the mornings, I would spit up blood. My throat was just that raw all the time. My stomach was jacked up, but I didn't care because it numbed. It numbed the pain, the guilt from my father, the guilt of walking out on my marriage, the guilt of not being the mother that I once was and had always wanted to be. It just numbed it all. So after about 2 years and a little bit, I talked with my husband and I was like, okay, I'll go to rehab if that makes you happy. I'll just go. So I did. I went to rehab, answered all the questions the way they wanted me to. Then I moved back home and just hid it for a while. I just hid it and thought nobody can smell vodka on me. And then I was like, oh, let me drink some wine, and then they'll just think I drink juice. They're not stupid. They knew exactly what was going on. It spiraled to the point that my husband came home and I was throwing up to the point of alcohol poisoning and could hardly walk. And at that moment, he was like, I'm done. It's been almost 3 years of this. Like, I can't take anymore. I can't put my children through this anymore. This is not what he signed up for. And he kicked me out. And so after he kicked me out, I decided that I didn't want to be here anymore. I was just going to, I was suicidal. I wasn't suicidal to the point where I was going to put actions to it, but it was in my thoughts. That was all I could think about, was I have done screwed everything up so much that I can't go a few hours without alcohol, or I would have complete tremors, nauseous, just sick withdrawals. So I don't deserve to be here anymore. And so I admitted myself to the hospital, to the ER, and told them. They decided that they were going to send me to a mental health facility. So I had to wait several hours until an ambulance was ready, and they loaded me up in the ambulance, strapped me down. Okay, bathroom break. Just kidding. I had to go check on my kid. So they put me in the ambulance, and I started praying, like, God, you've got to fix this. You have to. I don't know what else to do. I have hurt myself, hurt my children, hurt my husband. I have hurt everyone in my family with no regard. My heart was so hard toward everyone and everything. Like, I just didn't care. And so I laid there, strapped to the gurney, crying and praying, quietly, of course, because there was a really cute little EMT lady that was sitting as sweet as she could be, sitting there watching me, because I had told them that I was suicidal, so they had me under watch. And God was like, no, I'm not doing it. Not restoring your marriage. Not restoring your relationship with your children. I'm not healing you. I was confused. I was like, what? Your whole life you're told if you pray to God, he'll answer your prayers. But biblically, if you don't have a relationship with God, he is not required to hear your prayers or answer them. That's not saying that he won't, but in that moment, he told me, no, I'm not going to do it. I was like, well, then how am I going to fix it? Like, I can't fix it by myself. And God said, I need you to be all in your relationship with me, not just going through the motions, not just going to church on Sunday because you feel like you need to, telling people that you need to be all in. I'm like, okay, I'm all in. I have no other options at this point. Like, why wouldn't I be all in? Of course I'm all in. God said, okay, then prove it. I'm like, what? Prove what? I'm laying on a hospital gurney in the back of an ambulance, strapped down at the elbows because suicidal. And he said, raise your hands and thank me for it. I was like, what? He said, raise your hands and thank me for the restoration and healing. So I looked over at the cute little EMT lady, and she had no clue what was going on. And I raised my hands as far as I could because I was strapped down. And in that instant, like within a moment, my heart was no longer hardened. There was a wave of relief over me because I knew God had already done that work. And at that point, I was like, okay, God just did it. He just fixed me. And I know that sounds crazy and silly, but the complete, overwhelming love of God in that moment that I felt was undeniable to me. And EMT probably thought I definitely needed to go to the mental health facility because she's like, this crazy woman. We got to the mental health facility. Of course, I was admitted. But I knew then I didn't need to be there. Like, God had already done a work. And so I woke up the next morning there. And I was like, guys, I don't need to be here. Like, God did a work in the back of that ambulance. And of course, they're like, oh, she's crazy. But I actually ended up being in there like 2 days, I think. So when I got discharged, I ended up calling a family friend that we love dearly, and actually my husband introduced me. They told me I can move in with him. My husband was not letting me move back in. He filed for divorce, served me with papers, he was done. And I had resigned myself at that moment that even if my marriage wasn't restored, God had restored me, and I was going to keep being all in for him regardless. I wanted my marriage restored, but even if he didn't, I had promised God that I was all in. So, long story short, God restored my marriage as a result of the full surrender that I gave him in the back of the ambulance. I did not have any more desire to drink. Didn't have any withdrawal symptoms like I had in the past. My entire outlook on life changed. Did it take time for my marriage to be restored? Absolutely. Did it take time for my children to trust me again? Absolutely. Did I have to show them and put in the work? Absolutely. But I knew God had already done a change in me that I had hoped others could see. That was 6 years ago. Right after that, I got a great job that I feel like God has called me into. My daughters are my best friends along with my husband. We talk every day, super close. My husband and my marriage is stronger than it's ever been. Even when we first got married, like ever. God has blessed our family. It has grown. And none of that would have been possible had God not shown up in that moment. And had I not surrendered. Had I not been fully willing to be all in. And I'm still all in, which is why I'm sharing this. And I'm terrified because I don't show this part of me. But if my testimony can help one other person be all in for Christ and let him heal and restore whatever is broken for whatever reason, then I want to always be willing to share it.